Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Victory in Posing Weekend 2023, live here at Ashburn, Virginia at the Shop Gym. Tonight, Body by O, 5 o'clock tomorrow, men's bodybuilding, women's bodybuilding, and Sunday, men's bodybuilding. Once again, Body by O tonight, 5 o'clock. Once again, hello and welcome to the 2023 Victory in Posing Super Weekend. Tonight, 5 o'clock in just 10 minutes, Body by O. Tomorrow, women's bodybuilding, and Sunday, men's bodybuilding. We are live worldwide on TSG Events' YouTube page. Once again, head to YouTube, TSG Events. We are live worldwide, Body by O, going down in just 10 minutes. Check, check, check. Once again, hello and welcome to Victory in Posing Weekend 2023. Tonight, in just a few minutes, Body by O. Tomorrow, Saturday, women's bodybuilding. On Sunday is the men's. Again, Victory and Posing 2023 seminar getting started in just a few minutes. If you cannot be here today, tell your friends, tell your family. We are streaming live worldwide on TSG Events YouTube page. Again, look up Victory in Posing 2023 Body by O, and we are live worldwide on YouTube. We are getting started in just a few minutes.
Flip them on, it goes green and you're good to go. Off, and you're good.
All right, I think we're ready to go. We'll get the show off and running. Thank you very much to Victory Posing and Skylar and her hubby for having us out. I enjoy coming out. It's my third year that I've been out here, and I enjoy coming out and seeing everyone, sharing knowledge with everyone. And so I always start things off by saying we all learn from somewhere. All of us. We pick up little things here and there, we learn things, and then we take that and we mold it into our own thoughts and into our own actions and how we want to either be a trainer or how we enjoy training. But thank you, for Victory Posing for having us out, and we'll have a lot of fun today. I'm here with Erin Stern, IFBB Pro Erin Stern. Erin obviously has had a phenomenal year in figure. She's won 2 Olympias and multiple shows. Well, now she is at the top end of the bikini, and she's been to 2 bikini Olympias. And so it's a great accomplishment, and it's fun that she allows me to be a part of her journey, because as trainers, we are only as good as our clients allow us to be. So it's a lot of fun when they allow you to enjoy their journeys with them and have a good time. So thank you so much for Erin and being here. Erin will go over a lot of the stage stuff with you guys, so that being suits, hair, makeup, all those things. Now, tomorrow, we don't do a lot with posing today because they will be doing a lot with you guys tomorrow with posing. And so we'll keep it mostly to our stage stuff. We'll touch lightly on posing, but we want to save that for what you guys do tomorrow. So thank you guys again for coming, and we'll get things rolling here and start having a good time. Let me see where I have to point this. Okay. Well, that's me. There you go. Looking at me is not a good thing. One of my clients, I'm not very good about wearing things, accomplishments on me. So whenever she had put down the legend, and I just don't believe in wearing your own stuff. You know, if somebody says, "Oh my God, you're this or you're that," awesome. Thank you very much. I appreciate the compliment. For me to actually wear it, it's like, but she did this beautiful little outfit, decked me all out, so I have to wear it out of respect. But what we'll do is we'll get started with everything. And the reason I like doing seminars is because if any of you guys, know, or any of you guys trainers or, and everyday people who train but don't compete. So what I like to do is when you talk to your clients, you don't have the time to expound on the science behind why you do things. And so a lot of times when you're explaining things, you can't be as in-depth as you'd like to because you don't have that much time. What I use this for is I use this as the ability to go into detail on what I do and my reasonings behind it. And so that helps my clients, and it shares knowledge with individuals on my thought process and what I do. Now, this being said, you have multiple ways of doing things, and there are no right or wrong ways. You have a lot of different theories if it fits your macros, partitioning, low carb diets, high carb diets. You have lots of different theories and accomplish a goal, but then continue that goal for the rest of your life, because it's really easy, to go through a process, get to a certain place, and then you fall off and you lose back, and you don't go back to where you were, you go back worse. And that's the thing I like to try to protect with a lot of my clients, because I don't want them falling off, and I don't want them going out of bounds, to where I have this thing that I say all the time, it's not about keeping the car perfectly down the road. It's just keeping it off the neighbor's lawns. It's staying in the road. So if you can keep the car in the cement and off the lawns, you're going to be okay. Now, sometimes you're going to be better than others. None of us are perfect. But it's about consistency and sustainability. That's what will bring that's what will allow you to stay in a good place for a longer duration of time in your life, and which leads to longevity, obviously. So I've been obviously in the industry for a long time. I was looking it up the other day, and this is my 30th year that I've been working with competitive bodybuilders. I did compete for about 14 years. My journey kind of one fell into the other. I have a sports background, and when you're studying and you're trying to see what direction you want to go and what interests you, I start off with the shotgun mentality, where it was like, okay, I had this spread that was way out to here, and as you get going and you start learning and educating yourself, then that scope comes down and starts narrowing down to where you fall into this path. And that's what will enable you to be very good at what you do. And so with me, it was always a hard thing, because I'm one of these guys that, I wanted to play every single sport in high school. And I wanted to do every single thing I could do. Well, same thing when I got in this. I want to train everybody. And I did train a lot of different styles. But then it started to funnel and funnel and funnel and funnel to where you become a little bit more of a specialist than you are just an average nutritionist or an average, with what you do on a normal day-to-day basis with normal people. So you tend to want to compartmentalize things. So a lot of my background, I was blessed to be able to work with, I trained the team physician for the Chargers, Dr. Jerry Ezon. And Jerry brought me into the medical field, which a lot of my thought processes on training comes from that medical background because I wanted to learn about it. I wanted to understand it and learn it. So between Charles Poliquin and Jerry, I developed a lot of medical background stuff. I got involved with the CME, which is the continuing medical education, and I taught physicians about nutrition. And I went to all the ACSM symposiums, and I would go sit into rotator cuff surgeries, knee surgeries, elbow surgeries, because I wanted to understand it, to know how to protect it with training. Then I started following, when I was competing, I was a big fan of Lee Labrada, mainly because we're both like 5'2", but he has a way better structure. But I admired his philosophy and how he was trained. Then I wanted to know, well, who works with his nutrition? And that's when I first started following Keith Klein. And Keith Klein, I admire, I say this every year, but I admire everything that he has done, because he studies not only from the standpoint of nutrition for the body, but he also studies a lot about eating disorders and the psychology behind some of the things that goes into nutrition. And he was in the same philosophy realm that I was, everything in moderation, everything in balance. So I start studying, and then you start to put your own spin. So a lot of my background, I do have certifications. I'm not a clinical nutritionist. I don't have a degree in nutrition. Everything I've learned has been through either certifications or practical knowledge and application. And to be honest with you, a lot of where I've grown to has come from practical, because every year I've trained between 500 and 600 female athletes, and that's over 30 years. So I know where more winners. Yes, I enjoy my odds, but it's all the little fun things that happens, that people working through. Erin's a great example. Having someone who was a 2-time figure Olympia and then go, could you help me with bikini? Oh, you eat that up. It's like, good, that's an oddity. I don't have a lot of Olympians that want to go to bikini, and yeah, we can do it. Let's go. So I enjoy doing oddities like that and doing things where you're learning and you're accomplishing things that aren't normal top of the line kind of things. The IFBB and the NPC Pro League is the home that I've lived in for over 30 years. And I am blessed that they have given me the platform to be able to meet as many people as I have, to be able to run a business that's been a very successful one, and to be able to help people in my way, in keeping people progressing, accomplishing goals, but also learning. One of the things I'm most happy about is my tree. I call it my tree. And so when I look out, there's a lot of trainers out there who came from, that I have worked with, or came from my philosophies, and that I find very flattering. Now, I tell every one of them, don't be me, be better than me. Be more than what, take things you've learned from me, expound on it, grow on it, learn from it. But that's what you want. You want knowledge because it's about spreading knowledge. It's about each of us sharing and learning and growing. So I've been very blessed to have a lot of different physiques in my life. But with the NPC, Gary Udit is the district chairman for your area, and you can go on GaryUdit.com, and he has all, Gary's one of these very organized, very structured chairman, and I love that about him because everything is run the same way every single time. His shows are phenomenal. He cares a lot about the athletes, and he does his best to make sure that everybody has a great experience and enjoys their shows. So any of you guys thinking about doing shows, please go on GaryUdit.com. You will see he has a list of shows that keep growing every year, but he is a phenomenal promoter, and you guys will really enjoy doing his shows. Which way? Yeah. Oops, too fast. So, right now I've been very blessed to work with some of the top pro bikinis. Erin, Janet Leug, Laura Lee Chapato. I was blessed to have Angelica Teixeira. One thing you learn is that even though you have an array of pros or an array of amateurs, no two physiques are the same. No two physiques should be treated the same. Even if someone is a structure that is very similar to another structure, you have completely different components. So their core metabolic rates, the degree of muscularity that they carry, their focus, their drive, each person has their own different pathway, and you have to individualize. So anyone wanting to get at that level to where they're training professional athletes or pro figure, pro bikini, whatever it is, you have to understand that each person has to be compartmentalized, because if they're not, then everything starts to get muddied up, and each person doesn't give the best of what you have to offer them, and that's the key. It's making sure each person feels like they're getting the attention and they're getting something that is designed to help them be the best that they can be. So when I first started, we had fitness. I've also had IFBB Pro Wellness. I've had figure. I've had men's physique. I've had classic men's physique. So I've kind of gone through the gamut of everything, and that's my background. I've wanted to train one Olympia. I had someone in every division of the Olympia. I had someone in the top 5 of every division in the Olympia. And that's my mentality that I had to try to control, because that's who I am. I want to try to do all this. Then as I grew, I learned, okay, slow it down, focus, be good at this area, be good at this area, bring that target zone down so you pay attention and you be more deliberate about what you're doing, so you're better at what you're doing and you're not getting distracted by a lot of other different things that may not be your forte. Now, what we're going to go over today is I call it contest nutrition, but in actuality, it's nutrition that is, I left my paper somewhere. Oh well. It's nutrition that is an overview of basic nutrition. And so when you look at what components breaks down into nutrition, you have your definition of a calorie, your metabolic meter, what happens if your calories drop too low, your meal frequency, and a balanced physique, a balanced body. So these are all parts of an overview on what a basic core nutrition program looks like. So starting off with calories, your calories are your basic, and I like to always say, no two calories are created equal. Calories are different. Just like if you use the analogy of putting gas in a car. If you put 91 in, that car is going to run really efficient, really smooth. You put 89, still pretty good, not as good as 91. 87, okay, now you have a little bit less, so now you get less mileage out that gas, and you're not getting the same kind of production and productivity you would have gotten if you would have had the 91. So no two calories are the same, and you want to make sure when you're doing any kind of, whether you're trying to gain lean muscle or you're trying to lose body fat, you want to make sure that the quality of the calories that you're eating is high quality, because you only get to eat so much. And so you want to make sure that what you're eating will process and be utilized by the body efficiently, because everything will get stored into fat. Protein, carbs, fats. Doesn't matter what it is. If you have an abundance or you overeat any particular food group, it will store as body fat. The key is make the quality of your protein. A hot dog protein is not the same quality as salmon or a lean cut of steak or chicken or turkey. So you want the quality of your calories to be as high as you can get it, because A, you can only handle so much. So you want to make sure what you're able to eat, the more you can eat, the more synthesis that happens in your body. Body fat can come down, lean muscle can come up, because the quality of the calories you're eating is very efficient. So always make sure when you're putting, the first thing you look at when you're putting your program together is, what's the quality of my calories? Are all my calories good calories, or do I have dead calories that are sitting in here that are slowing me down? Protein burns 4 calories per gram. Carbohydrates burn 4 calories per gram. Fats burn 9 calories per gram. The reason? Fats are dense. So how should we worry about that? If you're having a handful of almonds, that's a very dense calorie. So it takes your burning. Now, it will help to speed up the core metabolic rate a little bit, because it's going to sustain you for a little bit longer. That's why people like keto diets sometimes, because the sustainability of keeping you satiated lasts longer because the calories are more dense. So for your core metabolic rate to burn through them, it takes a longer period of time. So it satiates you and holds you better. Whereas protein and carbs, they burn at a quicker pace. So if you use that mentality of, okay, when I'm doing cardio, if I've got protein, carbs, and fats in my system, my body's gonna go after those carbs first, because they're gonna burn through, they burn just like protein. So you only have 2 sources of energy for your body: carbs, glycogen, and fats. So because your carbs are faster burning, your body's gonna go through those carbs, then your body's gonna go through the fats. Then if there's not let's say if you're on a very low fat diet, now you burn through carbs, there's not much fats there to go after, so what does your body do? Now it goes into protein. And that's what you don't want. You do not want protein synthesis, because if it starts to burn, now that can create muscle atrophy, and you do not want muscle atrophy. So when you're picking your calories, always pick the calories so that you're getting the cleanest calories available. Your metabolic meter is your core metabolic rate. And each body, so if your calories are equal to the fuel for your body, like fuel for gas for a car, well, the core metabolic rate is the rate at which your body burns the fuel. Now, each of us have different core metabolic rates, all of us. And it's understanding the core metabolic rate to understand what your body can process and handle, because each of us are different. So you have some people like Erin, who is a Ferrari or a Porsche. She burns her calories really efficiently, very quickly, so we have to be careful to make sure she has the proper amount and the proper quality. You have me, who's like a Mini Cooper or a turtle, that it's like my core metabolic rate is so dang sluggish, if I look at food, I gain weight. And so, not a good thing. Sometimes, how many of you guys have heard, oh, I read in this book that men should not go below 2,300 calories. Or a woman says, in order to gain muscle, I read that I should be having 1,900 calories a day. Well, the only problem with that thought is, how fast is your core metabolic rate? If it's a slower core metabolic rate, then, and you try to give it 1,900 or 2,000 calories a day, and it can't process all those calories, now you have a problem where you're gonna start storing body fat, only simply because your core metabolic rate is not up to that pace yet to be able to handle it. Now, that being said, it doesn't mean that you can't get your core metabolic rate up there. You can. You can learn through multiple mechanisms. You can learn how to speed your core metabolic rate up so it processes food faster. And some of that is quality of calories. And we'll go through some other things that will help show you how to speed the core metabolic rate up. But your your metabolism, usually I have my clients, I'll check 3 things usually. Number 1, you can take your temperature first thing in the morning before you get out of bed. And your temperature should be in a normal range between 97 and 98.5, usually in there. If you wake up in the morning and your temperature is down around, let's say 96 or 95.5, that could indicate a more sluggish thyroid. And if your thyroid is a little bit more, it's a little more sluggish, then obviously it's going to slow down the core metabolic rate. Number 2, your body's heat, its temperature. When your core metabolic rate is revved up and it's going good, your body emits heat. It lets it out. Why? Because it doesn't want to burn itself up. It's smart enough to know if I hold this heat in, my body temperature is going to get too high and I'm going to have damage to either internal organs or my health. So your body emits heat. So a lot of times when I'm training my athletes, I've always got my hand on the back of on their back or on their shoulders. I'm feeling to see if the heat's coming off. How many times have you gone to bed with your significant other and you're like, Jesus, you're like a little radiator. There's so much heat coming off your body. That's a fast metabolism. That means that core metabolic rate is moving. If the core metabolic rate is not moving, then your body tends to internalize things. And so it turns heat inward. Why? It's trying to speed itself up. So how many of you guys have done cardio and you're sweating, but it's kind of a cold, like it's a clammy sweat. It's not a hot sweat. That's a good indicator that your body is trying to heat itself up. The core metabolic rate is not functioning. And so it's trying to internalize it, and you're clammy because that coldness is sitting right on a skin surface because your body's trying to heat itself up. So I use all those different things to try to see. And then if all 3 are indicators that are happening, then I'll usually let my clients go and have lab work done and have their thyroids checked to make sure that their function, their T3, T4, TSH, all their functions are normal and that they're not having thyroid issues. The basics on dropping calories too low. There's 2 different standards with bringing calories down too low. Standard 1 is women, which most females can process about 3 to 350 calories per meal. That's on an average structure. Men can process closer to 450 to 500 because we have more muscle, and within that muscle speeds up the core metabolic rate. So you have to be careful to make sure. Why is it important for you to be able to have 5 to 6 meals spread out more evenly through the day? Utilization. Your body, so if you know as a girl, number 1, with protein, you probably can only process 20 to 25 grams of protein at one sitting because it goes back to the thought of it can be stored as fat. So if I have too much protein and my body cannot process and utilize it, then it's going to do what it does everything else. It's going to go, okay, I'll just store it, and I'll store it in the form of fat so that should we need it for something else, I have it. So number 1, how much protein or carbs or fats and how many calories you can handle at one given time. So if you're not spreading those meals out, you can only handle, if you're having 3 meals of, let's say, 600 calories, and you're eating 18, you're going, okay, I'm eating my 1,800 calories over 3 meals. Number 1, your body can only process, of that 600 calories, your body's only going to process 350, so the rest is going to fat storages. Number 2, you tend to trigger starvation in the body. And so what happens is now, anytime you're eating, and you go longer than 4.5 to 5 hours, your body, it triggers starvation and in the thought process that you're not going to feed, your body goes, okay, she's not going to feed me or he's not going to feed me for another 4 to 5 hours. So now I'm going to become a human chipmunk. And everything I eat, I'm going to put it away and save it because they're not going to feed me again for another 4.5, 5 hours. And I need this for energy. So you don't want to trigger starvation. So by dropping those calories down too low, then what ends up happening is now you shut your core metabolic rate off, and B, you smolder out all of your energy. So you want to make sure that you keep the meal frequency about every 2.5 to 3 hours. I would not go longer than 3 hours, because anything longer than that, where you're getting into 4 and 4.5, that's where you're going to trigger a lot of your starvation. So if we backtrack and we go through and we go, okay, the quality of our calorie is important, because we want to make sure every calorie we got counts, because sometimes when you're on diets for shows, you don't get a lot of calories. So you better make damn sure those calories are good calories. And then number 2, how fast my body burns those calories. And then number 3, spreading my calories over small, frequent meals so that I keep my metabolism fed. So when I talked about speeding up your metabolism, this is what I'm talking about. If we equate it to, let's say, a bonfire, and we have a bonfire, and we have all this good wood right here. If I only put wood in that bonfire every 4.5 to 5 hours, what's going to happen? It's going to go out. That bonfire is going to go all the way down. It's going to be barely little embers. And maybe I can get those embers back up by putting fresh wood in there. If I put fresh wood in there every 1.5 to 2 hours, that bonfire is going to burn hotter and hotter and hotter. So your body's the same way. When you feed it every 2.5 to 3 hours and you give it that good wood, it's going to burn hotter. So you're going to protect your core metabolic rate. Now, the psychology part of that is that your mind says, okay, she's going to feed me, because minds can be groomed and patterned into thoughts by doing things the same way every day. So it gets into this thought process of, okay, she's going to feed me, or he's going to feed me. I don't have to hold on to things. I can let it go, because that next food is coming in about 2.5 to 3 hours. And because the calories are very usable calories, it burns them up and it uses them. So we want to make sure that we keep those meals small, keep them frequent. It's where I have the problem with certain, like if it fits your macros. And again, not being a right or wrong way, because it does work for some people and some people live by it. I totally get it. But the types of carbohydrates that you're using and when you're having them can be a big difference. Should you have a lot of carbohydrates at night when you tend to be more sedentary and you're not doing a lot? Now, let's say you go, okay, I'll take carbs all out of my breakfast, AM snack, lunch, because I tend to I crave sugars at night. So I just need carbs at night. So now what you do is you put them all in dinner and bedtime. Well, now, remember that thought process of I eat too many carbs at one time and my body can't use it. So now it stores it as fat. And number 2, I'm eating it when I'm sedentary. So my body's not going to utilize it because I'm just going to go to bed. So now that sits. So it's kind of why I do things the way I do it, why my meals are all balanced in protein, carbs, and fats. And I spread it out through the day because I want consistent energy throughout the whole day. I don't want to, and I try to, if I'm going to use a little bit more carbs or I'm going to use a little bit more, I wrap it around exercise where I know that I'm going to need it and utilize it at that particular time. So we went through our meal frequency. On the balanced body, your body will always fight to be balanced, always. So it's always going, it's kind of like a pendulum effect. And I always tell my clients, the key to a good nutrition plan or the key to a good program It's not, the pendulum doesn't have to stand perfectly still. It's just, instead of going out here to out here, and this is your swing, get that pendulum to swing just like this. Just very small, so that adjustments you need to make to stay in a good place, small adjustments. But your body will always fight to be in balance. So if something gets out of balance, especially with females, let's say your hormone system, if those hormones get out of balance and then now estrogen starts to raise, so you do something to kind of counter-react it, now it swings you back this way. Now the testosterone and the epitestosterone comes up, but now the estrogen goes up more. Then that pendulum starts swinging. It's the same thing with food. If you start playing with the food levels too much and you start loading here, loading there, loading here, now that weight starts sneaking up and you're trying to stop it, but it's like a runaway freight train. So now what you do is, oh, I'm gonna cut back. I'm gonna cut back. I'm only gonna have 900 calories. I'm only gonna do 3 meals a day. And then what ends up happening is now you're triggering your starvation mode again. So it's always about keeping everything in balance, everything in moderation, everything in balance, so your body utilizes everything efficiently. With your thyroid, this is what I was talking to you guys about. Usually 90% of the time the issue is not always medical. The first thing everybody thinks, oh, I have a bad thyroid. Or it's usually not the case. Usually 90% of what can be fixed through thyroid function can be done with solid nutrition and over-the-counter supplementation. So iodine and things that help to promote healthy thyroid function. But a lot of times we create our own issues by having too many sugar alcohols, by having the wrong types of fats. So if you've gone through the entire gambit of what you can do with food and what you're doing with nutrition, and you're staying hydrated and you're still having issues, then I would go to a physician and let them check to make sure that your thyroid function is operating. Okay, now breaking things down and going into the building blocks, which we all know the 3 building blocks: protein, carbs, fats. That's your 3 building blocks. Protein is extremely important for cell recuperation and lean muscle tissue gain. Now, there are certain times when if you're prepping for shows, the ability to gain lean muscle is a little bit more inhibited, because you're on usually you're on caloric restriction because you're trying to lower body fat. This is where staying in shape and staying closer to where you want to be within going on stage. Normally with my female athletes, I like to stay between 10 and 12 pounds. My guys, more 10 to 18 pounds, depending upon how much dense muscle they have. But it's going to be a different ratio with each individual. But by staying in a closer spot, then when you go to get your preps going and you go to it, you do not have to push yourself as hard, so you don't run the risk of sacrificing lean muscle tissue. It's when you've got to lose 20 to 30 pounds on a prep, then some of that weight loss is going to end up being muscle atrophy, because it's hard to lose that much weight and not sacrifice a little bit of muscle. It's just the way our bodies are designed. Some of it is going to be muscle. Now, with protein, as we said before, a girl trying to eat 50 to 60 grams of protein per sitting, it's highly unfeasible. And it's only because that's a lot of protein for your body to try to digest, because once protein gets broken down, 2 things happen. One, it gets converted through the liver and then can go into trans fatty acids, which are going to be stored as fat. Number 2, your liver has to process all this extra protein, and these are dense proteins. So it speeds up the liver function, which you get elevated bilirubin levels and you get elevated liver enzymes. So with protein, again, going back, most girls can handle 20 to 25. Most guys can handle between 40 and 45. And that's kind of over a 5 to 6 meal plan. Now, it will be different with each person, because if you have a higher degree of muscularity, your body may process that protein. And each individual is different. Some people naturally can handle a little more protein. The quality of your protein becomes important. So when you're looking at protein, you want to make sure, because you have two types. You have incomplete and you have complete protein. Do we have anybody out here that's vegetarian or vegan? Okay. I probably have 50, 60. Over the course of like the last 5 years, there have been so many more vegetarians on. And I have pros that are good pros that are vegetarian. Vegetarian sources tend to come from the incomplete. So by incomplete, it means that they don't contain all of the amino acids, all of the 21 amino acids. So what becomes very important to you is your supplements that come in that help to balance that structure out. So whether that's a pre-workout, a post-workout, a whey protein, or a different type of protein that has all of them, that's what helps to balance out to protect your muscle. So incomplete proteins, you got to remember, your body can't manufacture all of the essential proteins. So it needs it to come from somewhere else. And if you're not eating complete proteins, then it's got to come from your BCAAs and your glutamines and your complexes that contain all of them. So be sure that you're getting a majority of the protein that you're having. Be sure that you get it from complete sources, not incomplete sources. If you're vegetarian, supplement your meal plan with this high quality protein. That way you make sure, if you think protein is kind of like the Calvary, it's a good way to explain it. So what happens is every time you train, you have a sheathing, which is your fascia, which shields the muscle. Well, every time you train, it strips off a layer of that sheathing, and then the protein comes in, heals the sheathing, and then it grows back a little bit bigger. So now you get muscle growth because it heals and grows and heals and grows. Now, if you don't have the Calvary and you don't have the proper amount of the Calvary, now what ends up happening is you shave, but you don't get full growth. Now, and this is why I have a problem with sometimes people who train like chest Monday, Wednesday, Friday, because your body doesn't have time to heal. Or if you're training every single day and you don't have a rest day in for recovery, now you shave, and then by the time you come back to train again, it hasn't healed. So now you're shaving again. Well, eventually you keep shaving, and if your muscle is like the size of a softball, it's going to end up being about the size of a pea, because you're not having regeneration. You're not having growth regeneration. So now that what's going to end up happening is you're going to atrophy. So if you can't, a lot of times, and I've signed this gentleman's picture, we've talked about this, and I bring it up every time, more is not always better. Sometimes we have this, I need to do more. No, you don't need to do more. You need to be more intense for a shorter period of time and be smart about what you do. Because sometimes you try to do more and you get an injury or you don't recover. And then so I've had clients go, Kim, I train so hard. I'm in the gym for like 2 hours and I do this and I train 5-6 days a week. You're doing too much. You're not allowing your body to recover. And because of that, now your body starts to atrophy down and you start to run into these problems. So make sure that the quality of protein, number one, make sure your quality of protein is coming from very high sources. Number two, stay in your range. Spread it. Make sure you don't go, girls, don't go over 20 to 25. Stay, 5 to 6 meals. So that will put you, normally, most of my female athletes run about 1 gram per pound of body weight. It's usually about where the formula kind of falls off to. My guys, a little more. It's usually 1.5 grams to 2, depending upon how quickly their body processes everything. Your carbohydrates, Obviously, your carbohydrates are the fuel, one of your fuels for the source of energy. And it's a fast burning fuel. Your body will utilize carbohydrates very quickly. And it will utilize carbs again before fats. How many of you guys think it's more important for you to have your carbohydrates or your glycogen? How many of you guys think it's more important for you to have that before you do your weight training? And how many of you think it's more important to have after your weight training? Okay, the answer is actually both of them. Because glycogen is important for energy sources. So I know if you guys have ever known it, I can't tell you how many, if I ask one of my female athletes to go do cardio and she hasn't had carbs for 7-8 hours, that's going to be one miserable cardio session because she has no energy. Her energy levels are down. She'll do it, she'll get up there and get her cardio done, but it's going to be miserable. So what do you end up? You end up with a half-assed cardio session. And what good does that do you? You're not burning calories. You're not stimulating your core metabolic rate. So it's important to have carbs before you train because that's the source of energy that gets your energy levels up so that your training is efficient and strong. It's important to have immediately following because that's replenishment. That replenishes the glycogen cells to get you through the rest of the day. Because if you don't, then what's going to end up happening is your energy you're going to get through, if you're not having carbs and you're just having fats, now what's going to end up happening is about 2 hours later, those blood sugar levels are going to drop and your energy is going to plummet. Now you got to go through the whole rest of your day on low energy. And then that's when diets fail. Because it's not people, I heard it, Keith talking about this on one of his other things. There's a plain pleasure pain scenario in your mind, okay? Minds gravitate to pleasure and away from pain. It's why diets are so damn hard, because we think of the painful things. So mentally, we want to go away from that. So if a diet is put together and constructed that it's really painful and it's not fun to be in, your mind's going to want to go to the pleasure. And what's the pleasure? Unfortunately, cheat meals. And that could be anywhere from cookies to ice cream to pizza to burgers. And then a whole nother spin out comes over that. So you want to make sure if you've got that balance in there, now you're satiating not only your body, but you're satiating your mind. Because sometimes 60% of this battle is mental more than it is physical. But the physical part of it is making sure you're having your nutrition properly. So you have two different types of carbs. You have your simple carbs and you have your complex carbs. Now, your simple carbs are obviously carbohydrates that your body burns and uses quickly. And your complex carbs are more sustaining. So that's your sweet potatoes, your yams, your brown rice. It's things that releases energy more stabilized through your body so that you don't have fluctuations in insulin. So whenever you're dieting, you always want to really stay around the complex carbs. If you're going to have simple carbs, really the only place I put my simple carbs is right before an exercise. If I'm trying to get blood sugar levels up just a little bit, if I have a client that her blood sugar level drops real quick, I will use a little simple carbohydrate maybe 10 minutes before she does cardio so that, okay, it gets her blood sugar levels up, it sustains her through her cardio, and then by the time it comes back down, she's done, she's good to go. Complex carbs will keep your insulin more flatlined consistently throughout the day. And that's the key, because that will keep your energy levels consistent throughout the day. Now, they can also be broken down into starchy and fibrous. And so starchy carbs are like flours, white rices. These are carbs that your body does not process. So going back to the thought process of quality calories, a starchy carb isn't a high quality like a complex carb. So the starches are gonna spike insulin, which is gonna spike fat absorption. So it's gonna speed the fat absorption up. This is why having the sugary fats are the worst fats to have, because sugar spikes insulin, and then insulin sucks that fat right into those fat cells. And fat cells absorb them, shoop, and then they hold on to them. And so fat cells expand and grow. So you want to be careful with what the types of carbs you have. Keep your insulin levels really consistent, but stay away from your starchy complexes and stay more to your using your fiber. Fiber is good because it absorbs and holds 10 times its weight in water. So I tend to use fibrous carbs when I want to satiate my clients, when they tend to be, after certain points of the day, they get a little hungry. I have them have their fibrous with 1 or 2 glasses of water, because it absorbs the water, fills the gut, holds them, and satiates them long enough until they get to the next meal. So usually if my clients are, oh my God, I'm so hungry, what can I have? I usually let them have a cup of fibrous with 1 or 2 glasses of water, fill their little tummy up, they're happy, they're good to go. It triggers that thought in your mind that I'm satiated and I'm okay, and then everything's good going in from there. Now, looking into the types of sugars that there are right now that are broken down into carbohydrates, you have 3 groups of sugars. You have monosaccharides, which monosaccharides are singular molecular rings. One ring. So what that tells you is your body's going to burn through those really quickly, because there's only a singular ring there. They will break down and get into the bloodstream quicker. So you have your monosaccharides, you have your disaccharides, which that's what usually the sugar alcohols fall into. It falls into the di, because it's 2 molecular rings. Now it's better than the monos, but still it's a sugar alcohol. So it will still get into the bloodstream. It is a sugar compound, and we'll go over this here in a second. But it's still one that you want to stay away from, because those sugar alcohols are going to get in that bloodstream pretty quick, and it's going to cause the fat absorption as it did before. The third one is your polysaccharides. That's your best ones. That's your complex carbs. That's 3 molecular rings. So those are very slow ingesting. They do not bounce insulin, and they keep everything at a more even keel. And so when we talk about insulin, if you think of insulin like a roller coaster, and if you're having sugar and it's out of the monosaccharides, and you're having sugar, well, when you're at the bottom of the roller coaster, now you have your sugar. So what happens? The roller coaster starts going up to the top. And then what happens at the top? Everybody's hands goes up, and you're happy as hell. You'll get on cardio, you'll do whatever you gotta do. And then once you're at the top here, now those sugars start to come out of your bloodstream. So now what does insulin do? Now it goes down, and everybody goes, whoa, because now you're diving and you're dropping down. Does insulin, when it comes from that top peak and it goes back down, does insulin return back to where you were? No, it drops lower. And what is that called? It's called cravings. So what happens is your blood sugar level now drops, but it doesn't drop down to its normal place. It goes below its normal. And so now that's when it triggers cravings. So I always have the saying, sugar begets sugar. You have sugar, you want a little more sugar. You have a little more sugar, you want a little bit more sugar. That's why I tell people 2 things. When you're done with shows, A, watch your sugars, because they will set off cravings that you can't stop. Number 2, watch your sodium, because your system is in a balanced state. Most of the time, we lower that sodium level just a little bit. Now you put too much in there, and your body swells up like a balloon. So when you're looking at the insulin and what you're wanting to do with your insulin levels, you're wanting to keep insulin levels flatline. It shouldn't be like this, because if it is, that's the way your moods are gonna go all day long. You'll be happy, you'll be pissed off. You'll be happy, you'll be pissed off. You'll go through the whole day like that, up, down, up, down. And everybody with you goes, what the hell is wrong with you? And it's because your insulin is fluctuating. You want insulin to be more like this. So you want just small little bursts of energy, nice and consistent through the whole day. And in that way, you're not bouncing. Your energy levels are good, and it's elevated through the whole day. And now the consistency factor comes in. And so I tell everybody, sometimes my concept, coach, what's the best time to do, cardio? Should I do it fasted in the morning on an empty stomach? Does it tap into the lactic acid levels a little bit quicker because you've been sleeping all night? And if you haven't had carbs, let's say for your last meal, you may have gone, 6 to 8 hours, then your insulin levels are more flatlined because that glycogen has been used overnight. And now your glycogen levels are down. So does it tap into the fat cells a little quicker? Because remember, it burns glycogen first. Well, if there's not a lot of glycogen, it goes through the glycogen in the first 10 minutes. Now it goes into the fat and it starts utilizing. So the whole idea with fasted is do it when your glycogen levels are at its lowest. And then that way fat absorption goes a little bit more. The only problem with that is not everybody can function well on being fasted. I know I can't. If I'm fasted, I can get through about 10 minutes of cardio and then my blood sugar drops because it's already low and now I take it down lower. And if your fat levels are already at a low state, then now you have nothing to turn to energy except protein. And then that's when you sacrifice muscle. So the best time to do cardio, when you have the most energy. That's the bottom line, when you have the most energy. Because if you got energy, you got to push the hell out of that cardio. You feel good. But if you don't have energy, just 10 minutes on that thing is a struggle. And so you want to make sure you keep it. Same thing with training. If you have no energy and you try to go through an hour training program, you are going to flatline. And your strength through the first 10 minutes of your program, you'll be great. But then for the last 40 minutes of your training, you're going to have nothing left. So your training and your cardio should be when you have the most energy. And that way it's energy in, energy out. That's the whole key to what you do with training. Now the thing, I have a pet peeve about sugar alcohols. And because everybody, now they have Celsius drinks, and you have all types of, it has no sugar. The way that in labeling laws are tricky, and you really have to pay attention. We'll go through a lot with labeling laws because you really have to pay attention to labeling laws, because who wants to read a label that tells you you're having 3 tablespoons of sugar, but it's not bad for you, but yeah, there's 3 tablespoons. Nobody wants to see that because the companies don't want it because nobody's going to end up buying it. So if somebody looks at something and goes, oh my God, this is really high fat, I'm not going to have it. Or this is really high sugar, I'm not going to have it. The way that label laws are written up, if something doesn't significantly impact insulin, it is characterized as being sugar-free. Now, so you have sugar alcohols, which are pure sugar. They're sugar alcohols. If it doesn't spike insulin, then they categorize as being sugar-free. Well, I don't know if you guys have looked, usually I get samples because I want everybody to see. Have you ever really looked good? Now, not at a gum like Spree. Spree has just one thing in it, xylitol. And that's fine because it just has one. But if you looked at some of the other ones, have you ever really looked at how many sugar alcohols are in a stick of gum? There's usually like 4 to 6 sugar alcohols. So why do the damn things taste so good? They taste good because they're sugar. So your body processes it as sugar. And because it's slower ingesting, it gets in and it stays there. It doesn't burn out. So you have to be really careful. Same thing with the drinks that contain sugar alcohols. They'll contain 4 to 5 different sugar alcohols, and your body will process them. The sugar will go into the bloodstream, go through the liver. The liver will flip it and convert it into triglycerides, trans fatty acids. So you might as well eat a donut because it's going into the same little pot. So really watch your sugar alcohols. It's that trick of, okay, this is sugar-free, I can have it. Look at those sugar alcohols. Try to make better bad choices. So choose a gum like Spree that only has 1 sugar alcohol in it, xylitol. That's it. That's the only one it's got. Now at least you're not getting 4 or 5 different things in it. You're only getting 1. So you want to be careful to make sure that you keep those sugar alcohol levels down. Now, going into fats, and again, fats are like anything else. Fats, and overabundance of it, will be stored as fat. Carbohydrates will do it, proteins will do it, fats will do it a little more. Why? Because of going back to the density factor, how dense of a calorie fats are. That's why sometimes if you grab something, and I've done it just for shits and giggles, basically. I've gone places, and I always tell my clients, they're like, Coach, can I just go have like a half a glass of wine? It's not the half a glass of wine that scares me. That, it's going to have a little bit of sugar. You got to have some. It's not that. It's what the wine tells my client. That handful of nuts ain't going to hurt you. Don't worry about it. That fried wing's not going to bother you. Yeah, well, one time I did a test on myself. I was sitting there and I'm like, man, I'm sitting here and I'm grabbing a handful of these nuts. I wonder what this is. So I got my normal handful. I put it on a scale. I was having like 500 calories, like 80 grams of fat in one little handful of, and I'm like, what the hell? Because it's such a dense calorie. And that's the danger with fats. You have to be careful of the density because the fats can shoot up. And that's where, more than anything else, portion sizes on fats, you really need to pay close attention to. And we'll go through that here shortly. Because portion sizes can add up on you. Because again, label laws they're creatively done so that you're able to think something's fat-free. And now when you go and you get into it, it's not fat-free. So you want to always be careful to make sure, watch the types of fats you're having. For instance, how many of you guys will go grab turkey and you'll get maybe the 96% or 97% and you go, this is 97% fat-free. And so we think we're eating healthy. What's the problem with it? How many of you guys have really looked at a label and see how did they come up with 97% fat-free? They come up with the figure based on weight, not calories, on weight. So what they're doing is they're spreading it. This is based on 2,000. Because they spread it out and they thin it down, and that makes it 97%. So if you ever really want to know what the true grams of fats are in any given item that you buy, and let's take turkey for instance. If something has 1 gram of fat, you multiply it times 9, which is the calories that it is. You divide it by the serving size. That's the key. You divide it by the serving size. That will give you the true percentage of what something is. So if, let's say, for instance, you have ground turkey and let's say it's 3 grams of fat per serving. Now you take 3 times 9, which is 27, and you divide 27, usually it's 90 calories per the ounces per serving size. You divide the 27 by 90, and you find out that percentage is a lot higher than 98% fat-free. It's actually more like 80%, 85%. So it's a lot higher. And that's because they break the serving size and spread the serving size out. So number one, whenever you're having your fats, A, you want to pick your smart fats, but B, watch your serving sizes. Use this formula to see how many grams of fat does each serving contain. Another good example is when my clients cook, I'll ask them, how do you prepare your food? Well, I use olive oil. And how do you do it? Oh, I just pour it in there a little bit and I spread it around, and that's what I do. So, or I'll ask them, what do you use? I use Pam. Okay, how much do you spray? Well, I just cover it. I spray and I cover it, but it's fat-free. It doesn't have any fat. Again, like the sugars, legally, something can be 0.9 grams of fat and under and be categorized as fat-free. So it can almost have a gram of fat per serving. We think it's fat-free, so we spray the damn thing like we're doing Mickey Mouse, we're spelling our name, we're like making little funny hearts in there. So how many guys use Pam? Okay, what's the serving size of Pam? One-third second spray. Who the hell sprays for 1/3 second? That's like, that's it. That's 1/3 second. So that right there, that's almost a gram of fat. So if you're doing this, you're using probably 10 servings, 20 servings. They're telling you, and this is the part I crack up about. They're telling you this product is fat-free. It's freaking made out of canola oil. How the hell can canola oil be fat-free? It can't. It's an oil. It's a fat. But the way they do it is break that serving size. So be careful. Don't sit there and spray and try to coat every little ounce. Couple of shots, use your hand, spread it and cover it that way. That way you limit down, you make a better bad choice. So now you go, okay, I'll use this. Same thing, it's why I have my clients go away from the pour, because when you're pouring, what are you gonna do? You're gonna pour like a little mini lake. You pour it and you make sure everything's covered. The whole bottom of the pan's covered, because we're like anal retentive and we want everything to look good. So they pour, I get them away from the pour and I go, nope, go to Bed Bath & Beyond, get one of them little pump things, pour your oil in the little pump thing, pump it up, go back to your 2 or 3 little sprays. So you have to be careful, especially with calories that are dense calories. How many guys go into the airport, because we all go to airports, and you're hungry, and what do we grab? Usually either a bag of cashews or mixed nuts or something like that, or we get like a muffin. You turn it over and you look at the calories, and the calories say 90 calories. And so then we end up going, okay, it's only 90 calories. That's not that bad. I'll be okay. It's only got like 4 grams of sugar. Until we look at how many serving sizes is in, because you see things singular. You see a singular muffin. You see a singular bag of nuts. But then when you look at the serving size, oh crap, 5 nuts are like 10 grams of fat and like 200 grams of calories. So what happens is your mind sees singular. You don't think about, okay, that muffin, that was 1 serving size and there's 4 servings in there. So something from 5 grams just went to 20 grams. And something that was 100 calories just went to 400 or 500 calories because we think singular. So be really careful with your fats. Be really careful to make sure your serving sizes on your fats don't get way out there. Because if they do, I promise you, fats will add up very, very quickly, and it will store very quickly. Now, your healthy fats obviously are the ones that you want to stay around. Because like anything else, and you can see how I build things on top of each other. So going all the way back to smart calories. Our calories have to be smart. There it is. It's right in front of you. So smart calories of fat are going to be salmon, almonds, coconut oils, olive oils, things that are healthy fats that your body can utilize, that's not a saturated fat, that are going to go into the bloodstream and get stored as fat and jack up cholesterol levels. So it's using all the smart, fast assimilating fats. On your meal ratios, I tend to, it's changed a little bit over the years. My thought process tends to be 30, 30, 40. And when you go back to the balanced section, then what I'm talking about is everything in balance. So I don't like my proteins being way out. I don't like my carbs being way out. I don't like my fats being way out. I like everything in balance. So if 30% of my meal is protein, 30% of my meal is fats, 40% of my meal is carbs, I have a very balanced structure. Is that sustainable for life? Absolutely. And this is where I have problem, and again, this is just my thoughts. It's not saying that it's wrong for everybody. My thoughts. This is where I have a problem with like keto diets. And that what happens is, can you picture your life going through the rest of your life not having a carbohydrate? It's like, to me, it doesn't allow my mind to think that that's something that I can do for the rest of my life. So what happens is, if you're out of balance, you are teaching your body to become intolerant to certain food groups. So if you're never having carbs, your body becomes intolerant. So now what happens when you have a carb? You blow up like a pufferfish. Everything just goes whoop, because your body has gotten a sensitivity or an allergy to it because you've stripped it completely out, and now your body doesn't know what to do with it when it gets it. And now it has a strong reaction to it. So by keeping things in balance and keeping things in moderation, that keeps your life and your lifestyle very sustainable, because that's a very balanced function that you have set up. Supplementations, I use a lot of over-the-counter supplementation with my athletes, mainly because I'm doing different things to try to speed up metabolisms, or I'm trying to keep, especially for right now with these 1,000,000 bugs they got going around, the autoimmune system is extremely important. So I always like to augment in and supplement in things that help to make sure, number one, mineral levels, because we want to make sure we keep our mineral levels high, our multi-minerals, multivitamins. Two, your B vitamins for brain cognitivity and brain function, your vitamin C for the immune system, your zinc for the immune system, things that help to keep your body in balance. Your vitamin D3s, if you're in weather where it's a little darker, Seattle, you may not get as much sun, or you don't get out a lot, you're indoors, you got to keep your vitamin D3 levels up. This is all part of your immune and your body function with the autoimmune system. So I do use my multivitamins, multiminerals. Herbs I tend to use, when there's different things like my clients can't sleep or they tend to be a little anxious, using 5-HTP or valerian root, which are natural anti-anxietants, so they help calm your body down, holy basil, using things like that. Again, everything in moderation. Whatever the label tells you, stay to the label. Don't go outside the label bounds, because it's that same thing of doing too much is supposed to be better. No, it's not. If you're taking an overabundance of vitamins, then you just have expensive urine. That's all. Half of it's going into the toilet. So you want to make sure that you have enough to complement the body for what it might need that you're not getting nutritionally. Now, with water, going through this quickly, if you picture your water's important because it's 70% of our body. It's our hydration. I can't tell you how many times I've had my clients or my athletes tell me, Coach, I'm cramping, okay? Are you drinking water? Yes, I'm getting water. How much? Well, Coach, I drink water all the time. I drink 2 gallons of water a day, okay? And what about your mineral level? So you're getting it, what minerals? Okay, so you're just drinking water. Yeah, okay, you're actually making it worse because you're leaching minerals out of your system. So if you think of your body like a battery, and if the battery level in your car starts dropping down and you just pour water in the battery and water and water and water, eventually the battery acid drops out. And now what happens is, now the acidity level's going, now the battery goes dead. Same thing with your body. When you're drinking water and drinking water, you're leaching electrolytes and minerals out of your system. If you don't replace those electrolytes, you are going to dehydrate and cramp. Because the electrolytes are the transport that gets water into the muscle. So you need the electrolytes. Now nowadays, they've gotten much smarter about it and they put it in the damn water. So you go to Whole Foods, they have water with electrolytes. I tend to like to keep things more alkaline than acidic because disease grows in acidic environments. So the more acidic your system is, then the more prone it's going to be to catching colds, viruses, infections, because that's the environment that bacteria flourishes in. So number one, yes, usually with water I recommend, for girls, 1/2 gallon, 3/4 of a gallon. If you drink more, that's fine. Just make sure that you have your electrolytes in there. Guys, usually it's 1 gallon, 1.5 gallons. It's a little bit more because the muscle needs more. Water volumizes muscle. So it's the other reason why I don't like you not having carbs, because carbs transports water into the muscle. And that rounds, why? Because most carbs are high in vitamins and minerals. So it volumizes muscle. So with a lot of my athletes, that I train, I don't drop their carbs. I don't cut their carbs going into shows because I don't want flat, stringy muscle. And I want hydration. I want water in the muscle. The key is not having water under the skin. That's the key. So water in the muscle, very good, because that volumizes and fills those muscle bellies out. Water under the skin, that's the little hidden factor. That's why cycles drive girls batshit crazy, because that water comes in and it's that little thin layer, and no matter how hard you try to pull it, it's hard to get it out because it's hormonal, and it drives right under the layer of the skin, the dorsal, and that sits right by your little tummy and right on the bottom of the glutes. So the key is driving water into the muscle, keeping cellular water between the skin and the muscle, keeping that down so that your body then stays satiated and it stays well hydrated. So make sure, try to drink more alkaline than acidic. So water like 8.0 to 8.5. If you have the electrolyte water, drink the electrolyte water. If you don't, pick up like the little emergency packets and just, I usually spread my day out through liters, because if I put a gallon, I go, oh my God, I gotta drink that whole damn gallon of water. I'm not gonna be able to do it. If I put it in 3 liters, it doesn't seem as daunting because I look and go, okay, when that runs out, I'll fill it up. When that runs out, take your electrolytes, pour it in your water, shake it up. That way, every time you're drinking, you are replenishing the electrolytes. And then that way, when you get to the end of the day, usually at bedtime, if you're dehydrating, then you're not gonna get restful sleep, because you're gonna get muscle twitch. Your muscle fibers are gonna twitch, and they're going to be anxious, and you can't sleep restful sleep because your body's dehydrated and the muscles are firing, wanting to have water in them to satiate them. Fat burners, be very careful with fat burners. There's a usually if I'm going through a program, let's say it's a 12-week program, I never start program with central nervous stimulus fat burners. I just won't do it because fat burners stimulate adrenals. And if you know your adrenal gland is kind of shaped like a yam. And then the way as you start to take too much caffeine or too much of a central nervous stimulant, then it stimulates the adrenals to pump, to push adrenaline out. Now, eventually, the yam will become the size of a string bean, and then that leads to adrenal exhaustion. And now, if you've got adrenal exhaustion, I don't know if you guys have ever had it, you will be in bed or on a sofa, and you don't even have the energy to get up and go to the bathroom. You're like, put the pee pot right there, because that's as far as I'm gonna get. So you gotta be careful when you're using fat burners. Don't go on them for long periods of time. 3-4 weeks, take a couple of weeks off. Let your body, let your receptors get healthy, and then bring it back in. Don't keep, because your body has a way of acclimating to it and getting used to it. So at first, one tablet amps you out for 3 hours. Then 3 weeks later, you don't even feel one tablet, so you go to 2. And then now you do 2, and then you got that feeling again. And then now, okay, 2 tablets only last you for like 1 hour. So now you spread it, and now you're taking 2 tablets twice a day. And before you know it, that's how you get adrenal exhaustion. Because you just keep fatiguing, and your adrenal glands needs more to give you the same energy feel. So be careful with fat burners. Use them wisely and moderately. Now, the other thing with thermogenics is dehydration. So coffee is a water substance because it's made with water. It is also a natural dehydrant. So it's like taking herbal water pills. So if you just keep drinking coffee, then eventually it's going to dehydrate you because the caffeine is a natural stimulant. So be very careful. Your water content should not include what you drink. For every cup of coffee you have, you should have at least 4 to 5 cups of water to replenish what the coffee is going to leach out. Sodium, the way sometimes it's kind of different, again, different thought process. When I first came up, everything was like, okay, you would diet everybody down, and then 3 days out, you would drop the sodium down to 0, and you would add potassium in because you wanted to hold the water in the muscle. And the sodium you would pull out because you wanted to let the water out from under the skin. What's one of the side effects of too much potassium? Cardiac arrest. So when I heard of athletes doing slow K and high amounts of potassium to try to drive the water into the muscle, it was like they were a walking time bomb, because the side effect on too much potassium is cardiac arrest. Again, going all the way back, it's everything in moderation. I can't tell you, Erin's a good example, because I cannot drop this girl's sodium. Sometimes I can't even I can't even look to think about it because she'll drop weight. First of all, everybody's really different. But second of all, if we drop her sodium levels, because her body is really balanced, and if I drop her sodium the day before a show, the next day, flat as a pancake. Because her body needs the sodium in balance with the potassium to drive her food and water into the muscle. And if she doesn't get it, that muscle goes flat in a heartbeat. Now, there are times when you can make adjustments based on if you're holding a little bit of water, or things are happening that you got, okay, we got to get that out of there. But you don't have to drop. It's not, when you're going into peak weeks, my clients ask me all the time, Coach, now this is like 6 weeks, 8 weeks out from their actual show. Coach, what are we gonna do peak week? Well, hold on, let me get my crystal ball. Crystal ball, what should I do in the peak week over here? Because that crystal ball is gonna tell me about as much as I know. When you're prepping and you're getting people ready for an event and you're trying to peak on that event, you should never know what you're gonna do except to read it day by day by day, because you do not know what a body's gonna do. You do not know where a body's gonna go. So I never know what I'm gonna do with water, herbal water pills, sodium, all their mineral levels. I never know what I'm gonna do because you have to read it. So we look at her Wednesday, we look at her Thursday, we look at her Friday, we look at her Saturday, and we make adjustments based on where, if something's not broke, don't fix it. Leave it alone. Just let it cruise in, and the body will stay in a great place. But with sodium, you have to be really careful, because how many times, I can't tell you how many times people go, I was a little flat the day of the show. I look freaking amazing on Sunday. Why? Because they got their sodium levels back in balance. They got their sodium levels up. And then now that drove the food right into the muscle, drove the water right into the muscle, pow, everything was beautiful. So it goes back to not doing anything drastic, making sure that the adjustments, that pendulum that we talked about in the beginning, make sure that pendulum is really small, where you just make a little tweak here, a little tweak there, small adjustments, then there's no guesswork. You're not playing Russian roulette, because if you carb load, carb deplete, sodium load, sodium deplete, you're playing Russian roulette. It might work, you might look great, it might miss, and you are flat as a pancake. So when you don't, I'm not a big proponent of completely cutting out your sodium levels, because that can lead you to where you get completely flat. But again, it's on a case-to-case basis. So what we'll do now, Aaron will take over. What we're gonna do is now we'll go through some of the stage things that you guys, and then we'll do a Q&A after. So if you guys have any questions, Aaron's gonna go through all the makeup, the hair, all that stuff with you guys, and go over all the little questions with you guys.
Make sure it's on. Yes. Do you guys need to stand up, shake it out, do anything before we get started? Do the robot. Okay, so as Kim said, we're going to be talking about all things competition related. And the first... Okay. The first, and I think most important about makeup, is proper skincare. A couple weeks out, well, actually, it should be year-round, you want to think about exfoliation and moisturizer. For me, I use retinol. I actually use it on my face and on my body. That increases your cell turnover, and you also want to exfoliate. You can use something like a salicylic acid. If you want to do manual exfoliation, you can use like a dry brush or exfoliating gloves. This is great, but you want to have a really nice canvas for your makeup and for your tan. So if you're starting with a great canvas, you're going to do really well. Now, foundation is really important. You want to make sure that you're a few shades lighter than your tan, but not too light. So typically I like to contour, and I'll blend up the neck, and you want kind of this area to be dark. You want to bring out the features of your face, and because you're under bright lights, you want to really accentuate. You want to go a little bit darker, a little bit smokier than you would normally go. A good rule of thumb is to just get your phone out and take a flash picture of your face. And this is going to show you kind of where you are for those stage lights. Be careful of mineral makeup that can have what's called flashback. So it may look really nice in person, but once you get under the lights, it can be a little bit too bright. You want to make sure that everything is nice and mattified. Nothing too crazy for colors. We will get to the eyeshadow a lot of times, and this might be something like a thing of the past, but I still see it, where someone will have a blue suit and then they'll have blue eyeshadow. And there's nothing wrong with bringing a blue liner in or a little hint of blue if your suit is blue, just to match, but you don't want to look garish on stage. You want to, again, bring out your natural features. You want to accentuate what you have, but not go over the top. And very similar with lipstick, the bright red lip, very few people can pull that off. So something that's a little bit more nude, soft pink, that just brings out the natural beauty. Hair. Hair is a big deal on stage. Now, if you're training, you probably don't think too much about the total package on stage, but generally speaking, if you're more on the muscular side or on the leaner side, your overall appearance can be a bit harsh, so it can be a good idea to consider soft curls. Now, another thing to consider is just your natural hair texture. So if your hair is naturally curly, go with it. If your hair is short, rock it on stage. For me, coming from figure, going to bikini, my back is just very muscular. And bikini, that's not a good thing. So I would typically have a soft curl, and I would use hair extensions to cover up what I don't want the judges to see. So there's nothing wrong with that. So if you have a back that's maybe not well developed or maybe overdeveloped, you can use hair to your advantage. And similar with the shoulders, you don't want to come out on stage with hair over both of your shoulders, but if you are on the muscular side, you can use your hair to your advantage. So again, think if you're on the leaner or harder side, a soft curl is really beautiful, and that can help soften your overall look. If you're softer, straight hair can make you look a little bit harder on stage. Color is really important. Typically, something close to natural is going to be really great. I've seen, girls go crazy with pink hair or blue hair. To each their own, right? But you want your physique to speak for itself. You don't want to cause any major distractions. Now, if you want to try something over the top and you just want to do it, go for it, but understand that it may not be well received. So again, typically natural is better. The flash photography of your hair can be really good. And a lot of times, especially with bikini, more can be better too. So don't be afraid to get clip-in hair extensions and really practice posing with the hair and using that kind of as a prop. And that goes for figure, wellness. You'll see a lot of the girls using their hair in their posing, but not so much that it becomes distracting. Okay, so we're on to shoes. Shoes, it's a lot about personal preference, and it's about comfort too. So if you feel like you need a strap, if you feel like that will help you walk better, then go for it. And typically, if you have heels that have a strap, you want to make sure that the strap is clear. Because if it's not clear, it's basically going to cut off your ankle and it's going to throw off your proportions. Now, the platform of the shoe can make a huge difference in your proportion too. So you don't want to look like a baby bird on stage with huge platforms. Typically an inch or less in the toe, and heels that are 3 to 5 inches are great. You can do a little bling if you would like, but nothing too over the top, because again, it's going to be distracting. And you want your physique to really shine on stage, and everything from the hair to the suit, to your makeup, to the heels, to the jewelry, it should all complement your physique and be really well curated. So you don't want to walk out on stage with crazy blingy shoes that, you know, maybe have goldfish in the bottom platform or dollar signs or really crazy tall platforms, because that's what the judges are going to notice, and you probably won't be able to walk really well in them, and it's going to be a mess. So clear heels, typically the way to go, less than an inch on the toe and 3 to 5 inches on the heel. Definitely practice in those heels. If you're not wearing heels all the time, if you're just at the gym, you like to wear sneakers, clean your house in your heels. Just practice, practice, practice. It's really, really important. Jewelry. Now, there was a tendency to sort of match the suit with the jewelry and to go over the top, and there's that balance. So a bracelet on either side, a couple of rings, nice chandelier earrings can make a really nice impact. Necklaces, not so much. You know, you don't want to draw too much attention. Let's see, I'm going to go to my notes, make sure I don't miss anything. Oh, the pages are stuck together, of course. So with the bracelets and the rings, you want to make sure that you test them out really well. You want to flip your hair, make sure that your jewelry is not getting stuck in your hair. That's a pretty common thing because the stage jewelry is inexpensive. Make sure that if you're wearing earrings with a back, that the back is on securely. You don't want to lose a piece of jewelry on stage. It's happened to me before. If you do lose a piece of jewelry on stage, don't go back and get it. Just let it go. Now, as far as the earrings go, a nice chandelier earring can complement the face. You want to think about your face shape, your hairstyle, and same thing as the hairstyle. If you're a little bit more muscular and hard, something that's soft as far as shape can be really pretty and flattering. If you're a little bit softer, then you can go for a hard geometric, something that's a little bit more bold, and that can help kind of harden the look up a little bit if you would like. Now, places to get jewelry. I prefer eBay, Amazon. You can get really good deals. However, if you're looking for something that's curated, there are sites like Competition Kit. A lot of the bikini makers will sell jewelry also. I've just always been a cheapskate when it comes to stage jewelry because it just has to shine on stage, and typically you're looking for something new for next season. So I figure you can save where you want to save and, you know, spend a little bit more, like on the suit where I think it really matters. All right, the suits. Now, this can really make or break how you look on stage. You really want to think about how you're made up. Do you have long legs? Do you have a long torso? If you have a long torso, you may want to consider a suit that sits a little bit higher and makes your legs look longer. Now, if you have long legs and maybe a short torso, you may opt for suit bottoms that sit a little bit lower to even out your proportions. Now, on the pro stage, the pro cut is the way to go for bikini. A lot of times we'll think about modesty on stage and not wanting to show our entire butt cheeks on stage. But the smaller pro cut typically looks much better than a larger suit on stage. So consider that. Either way, you're going to be on stage in a bikini that fits in a Ziploc bag. So flaunt it. Now, as far as the color goes, this is important. You want to think about jewel tones. So these are your blues, your greens, your reds, your purples. These are really nice complementary colors. There are very few girls who can pull off pastels, whites, golds. These are colors that not only they're really, really tough on stage, but you have to think about your tanner too. So if you have a suit that's silver, for example, and you have the Pro Tan or Jantana, whichever you might use, it's really, really tough to keep that clean, and you're gonna have a really stressful time backstage doing anything. So think about those jewel tones, and there's something called color theory, if you're not familiar with it. It is based on your underlying skin tone, and it's your hair, your eye color, and you want to think about complementary suit colors to your hair and to your eyes. So if you think about someone who has red in their hair, an emerald green suit is absolutely stunning. If you have dark hair, think about perhaps a bright red or a deep red or a blue. That's really beautiful. So if you haven't checked out color theory, you can take a free quiz and it will tell you what your colors are. They even have something called seasons. So you might be a winter, a spring, a summer. And this is really, really great when it comes to picking out a suit. Now, stones. You want something that's going to shine on stage. And when I started out, this was of course back in the day, but you can still do it. I bought a consignment suit because I was on a budget, and I went to the craft store and I bought some craft glue, and I just glued some stones on the suit. So if you're on a budget, it's totally fine, but typically more is better when it comes to the stones, but you want to think about complementary stones too, along with the suit. Now, as far as how far out to order, I would contact the suit maker if you're having the suit custom made for you, but typically it's going to be about 8 to 16 weeks. And your measurements, of course, are going to change as you get closer to stage. So you want to stay in touch with the suit maker and make sure you're updating her or him about your sizing, because you don't want to get to the stage and have measurements from 16 weeks ago and your hips have come down 2 or 3 inches. And the great thing with suits is that they typically will stretch quite a bit. So, you do have some leeway there, but I think it's a good idea in the off season just to think about your suit colors, think about what suit maker or where you're gonna get your next suit, and then as you get closer to stage, then you're going to wanna order. Now, posing practice. Of course, tomorrow will be all about posing, but this is not something that you want to start doing 2 weeks before show. I see your face. You're like, no, no, no. You want to start as soon as possible. You want to start now. Even if you don't have a show picked out, you really want to learn what your best angles are. And for bikini, for example, you have a choice of 6 different front poses. Now, granted, some of them are not used as often as the typical front pose that we see most of the pros do, but you do have the choice of a number of different front poses, which is really great. So work on mobility. This is important. This is not only thoracic mobility, but you want to work on hip mobility too. Because for bikini, you want to be able to show your glutes, you want to be able to show the curves, and you have to have a high level of mobility to do that. So posing practice every day, even if it's in between sets at the gym. You want to really get to know your body, your angles, and what looks good on you. And what I like to do is just take a video, almost like you were doing a photo shoot, and try different poses, not thinking about stage, but look at how your body moves and how you work through transitions to see what looks best. And getting it on video is really great because the mirror, it does provide that instant feedback, but it's not always true, and you're not seeing it in an objective way. So you want to make sure that you're looking at the trends at the top pros to see what posing is like, what the transitions are like, because every year it changes just a little bit. Now the front pose has stayed pretty much the same, but you'll see different transitions, you'll see different moves. So I would say do a little research, watch some YouTube videos, and then try the poses out for yourself to see what you prefer and what looks best on your particular body. And hire a coach if needed. You know, there's nothing wrong with doing things yourself, but when it comes to prep, when it comes to posing, having an objective second set of eyes is really important, because you might think it looks good, but having someone either confirm or say, no, I think your hips need to be more at that 3/4 point or more straight on, that can be really helpful. And when you get to this stage, if you have a very similar physique to someone else, if your posing is better, you're going to place higher. You're going to win if it's between you and the other person. So posing is the icing on the cake. I think anybody can come in, they can train, you can stick to the diet, but it's that last little bit that makes a huge difference. Now, about 4 to 6 weeks out, you want to make sure that you're posing without a mirror, because when you get on stage, you don't have that instant feedback of the mirror. And you'll see a lot of people who don't do that. You know, they're always posing in front of the mirror, and then when they get out on stage, they're like, I was one of those people. So don't do that. And you want to make sure that when you're practicing, that you take your time, you go nice and slow, and get the poses down so you can work on your faces, you know, that you're not walking out and doing this, and you want to be really comfortable. And when that posing routine, when you're on autopilot, then you can really focus on those minor details, and you can make those last minute tweaks if needed. And also keep in mind that when you're practicing posing, week to week, your physique is going to change. So what might look good 16 weeks out may not look as good 4 weeks out. I know with Kim and I last year, I was posing on the other side. So I was pushing this hip out, and it looked good in the off season, or as I started getting ready. But then as it got closer to the show, we switched back to the other side, because Kim's like, it just doesn't look as good. So it was great to have his feedback and to make that adjustment, because I didn't feel as confident on the new side. So just understand that things change, it's really dynamic, and that you want to be practicing all the time so that when you have to make these changes, it's not the end of the world, and you know, you're not going to panic on stage. And then the other thing I'll tell you is that when you think about getting on stage, a lot of people will say that they're nervous, and that's not quite right. You think about nervousness and excitement, they're exactly the same emotion. It is just in how you're framing it. So next time you think, I'm nervous to get on stage, no, you're excited to get on stage. And before you walk out, think about something that makes you truly happy, because you're going to have a genuine smile on your face and you're just going to glow. The other thing that I think about is not being in a competition. I think about walking out like I'm accepting an award, or walking out like it's a guest posing, not a competition. And so kind of think about how you can frame your mindset to take the pressure off of yourself, because it's supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be something that you're able to show off your physique in your own unique way. It's something that you've worked weeks and weeks for, and you know that those last minute tweaks and that mindset is going to go a really long way towards your success. Questions? Don't be shy.
Any questions on anything?
Your natural hair color is beautiful. Have you been on stage before? I would say get on stage, see how it looks on stage, and because it's so neutral, you might want to go with like a deep purple or a really rich suit color. But I think it's stunning.
Yeah, don't do it. I laugh because wellness like flew right by bikini. Wellness comes out and I'm like, holy moly. Their hips are flying so much. The thing you have to be careful of, exaggeration. Because sometimes when you start to go and you get overly exaggerated, it comes off as being more forced than a natural flow. So, but Erin can tell you what she does, you know, it's because I ain't gonna do it. Every time I get the worst pictures, like, what the hell is he doing? But when you're watching it from a trainer, I always tell the girls, don't be flamboyant. Don't be over the top, because then the posing becomes a deterrent. It distracts the judges, because what the judges should be seeing is your physique. Everything should be complementary of your physique. If you're doing something, they're going to pay attention to that. They lost focus on the physique.
So hip mobility. Yeah. So I like to do cat-cow. That's a good one. And then you can do hanging QL. So basically what you're going to do is you're going to hang from a pull-up bar, and then you're going to pull up your hip using your QL on both sides, and it's excellent. The other thing you can do are thoracic rotations. So if you're on your hands and knees, you're going to bring your elbow down, and then you're going to come up like this. So that's really good for the thoracic mobility. Stretching too. So it's like the figure 4 stretch. And you just want to kind of work through static stretching post-workout, but before you work out, a lot of dynamic movements can help loosen up your hips. And then you can also work on loaded stretching as you're training, and that can help loosen up the hips too. Yes.
Wait, ma'am. Thank you. Oh, okay. Can you guys hear me? Okay. I have 2 questions. The first one, I'm an older fitness competitor. Thank you, ladies. I'm going to be 60, so I want to wear a bikini on my 60th birthday, but I've been told that I'm skinny fat and that I have to lose some weight but gain muscle too. So I want you to know I take my cell phone to the gym with me and I watch your YouTube videos as I'm working out. But I've had some of the worst trainers and nutritionists tell me that I need to either eat way more, so I'm eating so much, 5 meals a day, I can't get it all in, I'm exhausted, and then I'm either working out too much or working out too little. So the skinny fat question is the one thing I want to ask you guys about. Can you build muscle while you're losing fat? Is there such a thing? I mean, I feel it. I feel like I got a lot more muscle to go. So I know my birthday is in September, so I'm going to be working diligently with your videos. But is it possible to do?
Do you want to answer? We can both answer.
Well, first of all, everything's possible. Everything. I had a 52-year-old place top 10 in the Olympia. So everything's possible. It all goes back to balance, balance, balance. All skinny fat means, and I hate that terminology, because the bottom line is, it's our job. If you're a trainer or you're a nutritionist, it's your job to make sure that client attains goals. Now, that being said, everyone, we're only as good as our clients allow us to be. but they have to be able to follow, but you work with them. You work with them, and you use your mind, because 70% of this battle is mental, I promise you. So you use your mind to find ways to make things easier to get out of the predicament that they're in. So can you get lean muscle up and get body fat down? Absolutely. What's the key? Every single thing we talked about here. Everything in moderation, taking it nice and easy. I just told somebody today, hey, you know what? The one thing I've learned being as old as I am, the damn turtle does win the race. And it's all about taking your time, be patient, don't be in a rush, but be focused, and little small goals. Little small, and as you attain each goal, you put that behind you and you go into your next goal, and you put that behind you. But understand, things take time. I can count on this hand how many athletes I've had within 1 or 2 shows go right in, win a local show, go to nationals, get a pro card, go to the next show, go to the Olympia. I've had 5 in 30 years that have done that. That's a very small. Now I can't even remember how many Angelica Teixeiras I've had who competed last, second to last, third to last, win. That happens a lot more often. So you have to be patient, take your time, put together a game plan, and that's the trainer's job. Put together a game plan that is effective for you, and then be patient and be diligent. Work hard, never give up, never quit, and don't believe a damn thing anybody says that you can't. Can't is not an option. You can do anything you want to do.
I have one thing. So everything Kim said, plus I remember you saying you were vegetarian, right? So typically vegetarian and vegan diets are low in leucine. You want to make sure that you're at least getting some branched chain aminos to make sure you're getting that full amino acid profile. Next, there is a thing called anabolic resistance. As we get older, our protein needs can increase. So think about that AM meal and that PM, the nighttime meal, being higher in protein, because we're just not able to utilize protein the same way. And then your trainer needs to have a plan that's based on progressive overload, and eating should be around maintenance. So that's going to allow you to recomp. Now keep in mind, the leaner you get, the harder it is to recomp. So you may need to go into a 90-day building phase where you're about 100 to 300 calories over maintenance, and this is going to be enough to help you build muscle. But you want to make sure that that surplus is carbs and protein and not fats. Menopause.
Yeah, she's got it. Yeah. Does menopause factor in as well? Just so everyone else can hear.
It messed with me bad. When I hit it, I was a year. I was messed up. I tell everybody, I train so many female athletes a year. Trust me, my estrogen levels are like way the hell elevated. But yeah, menopause does play a role, because your hormone levels start to change as we get a little bit older. But Erin is exactly right. And you can see that's a good reaction. That's a good, the male in me went right to, like, we can do this. Challenge it. Come on, let's go. And the female in her went, okay, Les, now here's what you should. So that's a good sometimes difference in where you can see. You got the rah, 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 and then you got the one who's, whoa, okay, now let's put our thinking cap on. Sometimes I go a little rah, rah, rah.
Hi. I've been following Erin for a while, so it's a personal question for you. I followed you when you were in figure. So I know it was a little bit of a struggle to get to the bikini, just to body shape and everything, but with the posing, what posing do you prefer? Like, I know the figure, there's 4, you know.
So as far as figure and bikini, the posing, I feel like my heart was always with figure, because that's my personality. I'm very structured, I'm very type A, and as long as I know the route, like, I'm good. If someone does a last minute change on me, I'm just like, But with bikini, especially with Kim's help, I've grown to really love it. And the ability to express yourself on stage in bikini, you really can't do that the same way in figure. So it's nice to have different front poses to choose from, and the ability to really create a routine that is more you.
Yeah, you're very smooth in it.
Thank you. Practice. And Kim's help.
Yeah.
She was the funniest thing when she first sent me a tape. She's like, I want to go in a figure. I want to go in a bikini. Can you help me? It started off with posing. And I was like, sure, so why don't we do a Skype? So we did a Skype, and I was like, thinking to myself, okay, what am I doing here? All right, let's start from ground one, your feet. But she's the perfect example of, because I have watched her to where I literally was scared to see, make sure, because she was so stiff. I was like, okay, how am I gonna teach? She's caught in that mind. I gotta teach her how to be that feminine girl that bounces around again. And so I've watched her gravitate and grow and gravitate and grow. So practice does make perfect. It does take you, it opens you up. You start learning, and then next thing I'm like, where'd you learn to do that? I've been over there. Yes.
My question is more like on the hair issue. Obviously, I can't grow hair, but when you're saying that you could use it as a disguise, if you get too hard or too soft, well, for someone like myself that literally cannot grow hair longer than what it is because of age and whatnot, how I'm training so I don't look so hard, but still be soft and defined, like how can I use the short hair to my advantage, but training at the same time so I don't have to feel like, oh my God, my back is so bulky and, that kind of thing. Like, what would you suggest as far as like training that way to make it soft and not have to worry about camouflage?
So the hair can be personal preference too. Would you prefer to have longer hair on stage or no? Because, no. If you would, hair extensions, wigs, a lot of girls just wear wigs on stage. So that's an option. Now, if that's not something you want to do, bring that attitude on stage. You have short hair, rock it. And if you're worried about your back, then really be careful about your training if you think that your back is going to be overdeveloped. And then you can do a lot with posing too. So you're not going to do that back pose where you're standing there and letting the judges see your back. You might do a 3/4 pose or a side pose, and you might not spend too much time in your back pose. You might bring your arms in. Kim might be able to help with the posing a little bit.
Well, the greatest, I can't tell you how many clients I have literally walked right by the day of the show, and they're like, Kimbo. And I look, oh my God, you look so different with your makeup. The great equalizer is makeup. Because even if your hair is short, you can use soft tones, use earth tones, soften everything down with makeup. Makeup can balance everything through. It can make a look be a little to the harsh side. If you use again, I apologize. I used to always, right when we first started and all it was fitness, after the show was over, they didn't have makeup artists back then. This was like early 2000. They didn't have makeup artists, they didn't have it. So after the show was over, I'd be like, what are y'all doing? Oh, we're going over to Mac, we're gonna go get touched up. At that time they would do free touch-ups. So I'd be like, all right, I'll go. And I'd sit down, why you do this? Why you doing that? Why you doing this? So I learned about contouring and shadowing and everything else. But what I learned is that, wow, okay, you can make something look harsher on stage or softer on stage. You can make it look more feminine, or you can make it look a little brighter, like it's popping through more. So makeup equalizes everything. It balances everything. So even whether your hair is short or not, it's not gonna matter. What I would say, if your hair's a little shorter, soften the makeup down. Soften it down so it softens the look down, and then the posing is something you learn to do.
My main concern was like the back pose. If it was going to be too harsh, I can't
It won't be.
hide it.
It won't be
You
because
know.
you can change. They won't even. I've seen 2 or 3 girls get pro cards recently that are bald headed, no hair, and I'm like, that's amazing. That's awesome. Get out there and rock it because it's just part of who they are. It's part of their personality. So it doesn't matter. It really doesn't. It's your physique and how you present it.
This is for Erin. I was curious as to why you decided to change from figure to bikini, and also kind of what were the biggest changes you had to do in regards to your training and nutrition in order to do that?
Great question. So, why I decided to change from figure to bikini, the criteria for figure has been changing, and it has been going the more muscular route. Me, I'm 5'8", I'm tall, I'm kind of lanky, and just genetically, it's not a look that I could achieve, and it would take a lot in the off season. I'd have to gain a lot of weight, and my brand.
It's okay, I have.
Yes, girl, thank you. So my brand requires me to stay in shape year round, and I just, you know, it was something that I couldn't achieve, and then the ideal figure physique was something that wasn't my ideal, and it's really hard to get motivated when the ideal for stage is not your ideal. So I'd be working for something that in my heart I knew I didn't want. And as far as transitioning to bikini, so far it's been about 10 pounds of muscle that I've taken off of my upper body and added to my lower body. And the biggest thing was not training upper body directly or indirectly. And then I went on a very low protein diet for over a year. And the hope was that my body would use the amino acids in my upper body to help build my lower body. And it was kind of an N of one experiment, but it seemed to work. Questions?
Oh, yay. Hello? Hello? Oh, there we go. Oh, Jesus. Okay, so this one wasn't covered. It's about hair removal. So, you know, I'm 32 years old, never shaved my body in my life. So I was a hairy person, right? And I tried it for the first time, and I have folliculitis, razor burn. I look like I had a disease. It's calmed down a lot, and I'm asking around like, oh, what can I do to like stop this, or like exfoliate before? No, you have to exfoliate after. What can I do to try and get my skin to kind of calm down when I'm removing my hair? Yeah.
Did you just start with a razor? With a razor?
Well, you know, it's like shaving cream or whatever. And
So
yeah.
next time, start with a beard trimmer.
Oh, we did that too. Yeah. I
Start
trimmed it
with
down with a
beard
trimmer. Yeah.
Yep. Take off all the heavy stuff. Let it sit. Because you're getting skin irritation.
Okay.
Let it sit. Then moisturize your skin for a couple of days. Now come back, do small parts at a time. Don't try to do the whole thing, because then now your body's going to get irritated. It's better to irritate one little spot and get it used than a whole big spot. Take your time. Sometimes when I was competing, I would use Nair because I didn't have any problems with it. Nair, and Nairs have moisturizers in them. Try it on a patch. So take like a little part of your back, because if there's anything going to be sensitive, it's going to be your back. So I picked my right shoulder blade, and then I had my wife, you know, because I have no flexibility whatsoever, and my arms are like a little elf, you know, like a little nerd. So I'd have my wife put a little bit of the Nair on the back, and then I'd let it pull it off, and I'd wait a day or two, see if I didn't get any irritation. Then I did the other side, and if I get any irritation, so I just kind of did that through my body, and then I got my body. I didn't do well with razors. Razors did the same thing. It irritated my skin. It was too much. But you can try Nair. They have good, they have other ways of skin removal now. One time I went and they have the laser. I hated that shit. It's like that, and then things smell like it's burning. And I had little sucker feed all over me. I look like I got attacked by an octopus. But I would try the Nair because the Nair can work well, and then do little parts with your arms. Like usually you could shave your arms; they're usually fine. But I Naired my legs and everything.
Okay.
You can try exfoliation. You can try also shaving in the direction of the hair growth. And then there's something called blue tansy oil or Centella asiatica. They're just herbs in lotion, and that can kind of help calm the skin down.
Do you recommend to exfoliate before or after shaving?
Before, definitely before, and I would do it a couple of weeks before. And like Kim said, just try different methods, small areas at a time, and see what works.
Okay.
What we'll do a raffle now. So I'll let Aaron pull the numbers. So we have some of these little bags we're going to be giving away, some water pills, and then I have a $200 off of one of my programs. It could be whatever program you want, whether it's a nutritional program or whether it's a contest prep. So Aaron will pull and she'll announce the number.
Okay, we have Lucky 559700. Yes! Congrats. Okay, next winner 559697. Congrats. Again. Okay, next one 559690. Yay, congrats. How many do you more? Okay. Okay.
So this will be for the certificate that my girls made up.
559699. Yay!
And then we'll do this is the herbal water pills. This is my Superzide. When I made my Superzide, I did not want caffeine in my water pills because a lot of times you take an herbal water pill at bedtime, and I didn't want my athletes not being able to sleep. So this is stimulant free. It is higher in potassium because I only wanted subcutaneous water. I didn't want cellular water being drunk. So when I put this together, and then it comes with a water bottle, make sure you drink your damn water.
Okay, we have Lucky 559689. Yay! Okay, we have 559688. Five 559693. One more? Two more. Okay. 559694. 559695.
So what we'll do, Aaron and I will come down. We'll come down in the front. Then that way, if you guys want to take any pictures, we can take pictures with this being in the background. And then that way we'll have some nice pictures. And then if you guys want to ask, we'll do the pictures first. And then after we take pictures, if you guys have a specific question you want to ask or whatever while we're down there, then we'll be happy to talk to you guys. Thank you guys so much for coming out. Thank you, really. I really enjoy coming here every year. You know, you guys are very receptive, and I enjoy spending knowledge with you.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming to Body by O here, part of Victory and Posing 2023 weekend. Tomorrow, women's bodybuilding, and Sunday, men's bodybuilding. Don't miss out. We will see you right back here, 10 a.m. tomorrow.